Let me move my microphone where it's supposed to be. Welcome, everybody, to Fourth and Frames. It feels like we've abandoned you, if the fantasy football fans out there who are watching and listening right now. It's like we've been away for so long. In reality, it's just been a week. But it feels like it's been so long, and we have not abandoned you. We are here to help you down the home stretch heading into the fantasy playoffs and through the fantasy playoffs, which a couple of years ago, this was it. This was the week to get you into the playoffs or to, get you into the playoffs. There was no other option here, but not so much anymore. We at least got one more week before we start talking about that. Anyhow, I'm your host, Jorge Edwards. With me, I got my guys, Nate Markham, Tyler Heil. Tyler, let's start with you. I haven't seen you for a bit. How you doing, man?
I am wonderful. I am so happy to be back. It is a crazy month. A lot of travel, family, personal, just a lot of fun, but it's really good to be back. I love doing this every Wednesday night, and I love talking fantasy football with you guys.
Love it. Yeah, if you folks, who are listening or maybe new to the show, don't know, on Wednesdays we have 3 out of our 4 podcasts airing back to back to back over on our YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook channels. And so therefore on Wednesdays, we kick it off with our Dynasty podcast, Dynasty 365, which Tyler is the host of, and he has a new co-host. Tell us about your new co-host, Tyler.
My new co-host is Mr. Bill Mustafa. He is part of the Fantasy and Frames family from over in the UK. I love having Bill on there. He has very strong opinions about players and about things, and he is not afraid to let you know what they are. So it's been a lot of fun having him on, and it's going to get even better going into the off season when we start doing more shows and longer shows and getting into this draft class and this free agent class.
Absolutely. It's, just as the season ends, I can already start thinking about what's going to happen next year. And our director of content, Zach Berger, he's like, yeah, Jorge, I got plans for 2024. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. All right. That's awesome. So yeah, definitely check out Dynasty 365. You'll find it on our YouTube page under the Dynasty 365 tab. All of our episodes in podcast form are there, rather in video form of our podcasts, as well as go check it out on on Twitter. At Twitter at Dynasty 365 Pod. Follow that account to get all the up to the minute Dynasty fantasy football information here from Fantasy and Frames. Speaking of information here at Fantasy and Frames, we of course cover IDP, and that brings us to Mr. Nate Markham, director of IDP content here. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. That's about it. I'm ready to get talking. I don't need. Yeah, I'm ready.
Tyler had all that, and you're like, I'm good, man. I'm good. All right. Well,
people don't care how I'm doing. If there's a person that's listening right now that actually cares how I'm doing, instead of wanting to get no, they don't. You're full of shit. Do. I don't listen to anybody and care how anybody's doing. You want to give me 20-minute diatribes of how you guys are doing? Great. I'll fast forward and put you on 2 times speed until you start getting into content, and then I'll slow that bad boy down to 1 1/4.
Holy hell. Have you ever listened to a podcast on 2 times speed? I think I almost had a stroke.
I did. Not the stroke part, but I did listen.
Well, since Nate's here in the holiday spirit, let's just do what he says and get you to some news and notes here for week 13 of the NFL/fantasy football season. Tell me if you heard this before. Elijah Mitchell is hurt again. And this week it's MCL injury, similar MCL injury he had injured earlier in the season, out 6 to 8 weeks. He's a safe drop at this point, I would think, for you there. So that's an empty bench spot you don't have to worry about for your fantasy rosters here. That sucks. Christian McCaffrey is dealing with a knee injury for the 49ers. Apparently he felt something happen during the game this past week, so that's never a good sign. Heading over to Cincinnati, Joe Mixon, who didn't play last week, is trending in the right direction, coming back from concussion, so we'll see what happens there. Darnell Mooney, wide receiver of the Chicago Bears, out for the season with an ankle injury. Aaron Rodgers, let me tell you, this game against the Eagles on Sunday night was a lot closer than I think a lot of us were anticipating being. I anticipated it being a complete blowout, but he kept them in it for as long as he could until he, his broken thumb, and then was it rib injury that took him out of the game?
Mm-hmm.
Happened. Will he sit? I don't know. Jordan Love, in limited fashion, he did what he needed to do. He converted a first down and he got you a touchdown. So it'll be interesting.
That was all Watson.
Sure, of course. Yeah, the yards after the catch for Watson were but still, he had to get the ball there. So that starts.
That's true. He can throw the ball 10 yards. I'm really happy.
There was a time where we were not so sure that was the case, Tyler, but he
that's fair.
He did good. He did good. That's grammar right there. Will he or won't he sit? Here's the question that's rhetorical, and I'll probably answer later. And by probably, I mean I will answer later. Is what does that mean for Christian Watson if Jordan Love plays? We'll get to that a little bit later, potentially. Speaking of wide receivers that are potentially playing, well, this guy is definitely not playing. That's Allen Robinson getting a foot surgery out for the season for the Rams. What do the Rams do? Is it the Van Jefferson show at this point? Like, you think I'm joking, but like I'm kind of thinking like this is kind of it. Does Matt Stafford even come back for the rest of the year? Like the running backs aren't doing anything. Kyron Williams, everybody was like, "Ooh, Kyron Williams." He has not done anything. Like it's hell. Even Aaron Donald, not to talk too much IDP, but like he's missing his first game in his career. And he was talked into coming back this offseason. So it's like everything's falling apart. Tyler is waving the white flag.
That's what the Rams are doing.
I mean, can you blame them? We were talking about Tristan Wirfs in our pre-show meeting. Tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, carted off the field. Did not realize he was carted off the field. That tells you how much I was paying attention to Buccaneers news. But apparently it was a gruesome injury, Nate. Pretty gruesome.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it. They didn't show it again. So once you didn't see it live, you probably have to tune in pretty deep. And I didn't choose to go down that rabbit hole. I just chose to accept that he's out, and that hurts a little bit for Rashad White. As far as my ceiling play with him goes, but that's what it sucks.
It's not great it's not great for him. We wish him a speedy recovery. But also it's kind of downgrading a lot of players along this Buccaneers offense. Last I heard, having a good offensive line is key to football success, aka fantasy football success. Michael Carter, ankle injury during last week's game. But there's a new running back on the horizon, huh, Tyler, for the New York Jets? Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Oh man, you mean James Robinson?
Stop it. Why? First, Bill is taking shots at the Commanders last hour in Dynasty 365. Now you're taking shots at me and my affinity for James Robinson. What's going on with this? Come on, man.
I'm sorry. We are talking about Zonovan Knight. He was a undrafted rookie who was, I really liked him coming out. It didn't love him. I didn't think he was going to be drafted highly, but I like the way he plays the game, and he played really well. And when given the opportunity last week, so out of the Jets beat, they're essentially saying Zonovan Knight has earned a role in this offense.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that is going to continue going forward. It could be the Michael Carter and Zonovan Knight show when Carter gets back.
Yeah, Knight was actually involved in the passing game before Carter was even hurt. So his involvement wasn't just directly correlated to the injury. I mean, his ossification into that role was, but I mean, he had 14 attempts. He created 6 missed tackles in that game. So
that's a lot.
Yeah, he had 14 attempts. I mean, it was about 40% of his rushing attempts ended in missed tackle. So that's, I mean, unsustainable, but it's an incredible stat line.
Absolutely. And
ossification into the starting line. I love that. That's great.
Thank you very much.
I love that very much. Heading over to Duval County in Florida, Travis Etienne held out last week, foot injury, or had a foot injury. It came out of the game. Apparently things are okay. He felt okay. Not anything to be concerned about. So sorry, Daryl Henderson truthers, you're going to have to wait another week to be disappointed yet again.
Am I the only one that doesn't buy all that?
That
he's
foot
fine?
Injury is not that bad. I mean, I think that the question comes down to, how was that question to the coaching staff, training staff praised? Was it, oh man, is it as serious as Liz Frank? And they went, oh no, it's fine compared to that. If that was the way it was phrased, then yeah. But you never know exactly how and what context, because I don't buy 100%. I think he probably plays what CMC played last week, something around like 60 something percent of the snaps. And I think we'll see JaMychal Hasty get the remainder, because he was effective with the ball. I mean, It wasn't great, but he was far from terrible, far from enough of a deficit to hurt them. Because I think last week's win was big for them, because I feel like they really know they can win ball games.
Yeah, they're a good team.
They are. They're a great team for the future. In 2 years from now, I think that we'll all be, maybe even next year. You get Calvin Ridley another year, and Zay and Kirk, and it should be. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely fun to watch at least. Let's go here to New England. Damian Harris has a thigh injury week to week. And Ramondre Stevenson, he's been playing well this season. Tell me if you haven't heard that before. Right. So definitely riding the hot hand with that. Hot season with that, with Ramondre Stevenson. Davis Mills for the Texans got benched. Kyle Allen comes in. Hey, surprise, he sucks as well. So this is really going to be interesting heading into this week in Houston, where Deshaun Watson comes back. Yes, I'm talking about the elephant in the room here. Why? Because Kyle Allen probably is still going to suck in some of the Texans this week. Melvin Gordon got signed to the Chiefs practice squad. That, for me, is so weird. As somebody who followed Melvin Gordon when he came into the league with the Chargers, all those great games he's played against the Chiefs, now he's flipping sides, going to the practice squad. CEH is out. You're not seeing the craziness from Pacheco in the receiving game. What do you make of this signing, Nate? Do you think this is, as a resident Chiefs fan here, do you think this is just a depth piece, or do you think Melvin Gordon can actually show some life down the stretch of this season?
I mean, I think it's a depth piece. I think that anytime you have some of the holes that have been opening up for some of the KC running backs, especially as of late, because KC has a really good offensive line. They really do. They just sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle of how good their passing game is, and he can really set it up. But I don't know. I don't believe Melvin really has much left in the proverbial tank to be fantasy relevant, more so than just a 30% share guy, maybe 35%. And who knows? The fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, I have no clue, because they haven't given any indication whatsoever from any of the local podcasts, any of the beat reporters. I would just be, I'd be bullshitting somebody if I said I knew what they were going to do.
This makes me think of, they're coasting to the postseason, and Melvin Gordon is going to have a Jerick McKinnon-esque game like Jerick McKinnon did in the playoffs last year, where he just did everything and blew up.
And that might be. But Jerick McKinnon's been Jerick McKinnon. That's the problem, is I hate to see Jerick McKinnon lose what he's been doing well. But, here, I'd rather have more bodies than less. And Ronald Jones isn't the answer for me personally. Nor is CEH going to be back in time for anything significant. I think don't get me wrong, it's news as I turn the page.
Watch Melvin Gordon be the Damian Williams / Damian Williams.
Yeah, Damian Williams. I'd say he was a Super Bowl MVP. I'll take it.
He should have been, considering how well he played.
I'll take it.
Let's go to Charm City in Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins is designated to return from injury. Man, I was so hyped for Gus Edwards last week. He was running the ball so well until he started putting the ball on the ground, and it's like, well, your time's up as soon as J.K. Dobbins is back. So no questions there. Odell Beckham Jr., when he's not getting arrested off of airplanes, he's going on team tours this week, trying to figure out where he's going to play this season. A lot of unsubstantiated rumors and anonymous sources keeps talking about Dallas being the landing spot. He's going to kick off his tour, though, going back to his roots in the Meadowlands with the Giants. Here's the thing, folks. We're at week 13, okay? Mm-hmm. You're telling me this wide receiver who has not played in a year coming off of an ACL is going to go to a team potentially at the earliest, but middle of next week, late next week, learn an offense, get the chemistry down with their quarterback, and then be fantasy relevant for you at some point during the fantasy playoffs? Like, is this something that you honestly believe is going to happen? If it does, egg on my face, right? There's just a lot of variables that I'm having a hard time saying, hey, I would, Garrett Wilson, no, I'm going to take him out of my lineup. I want to put in Odell Beckham Jr., especially with the way Mike White played on Sunday. Am I crazy for thinking this, or is he worth a roster spot at this point?
I'm in the process right now of, I think, getting ready to drop him from our Kings Classic team, because I probably won't in a 14-team league, just because if he does, but you're right, man. There's no feasible way for me to consider him to be inserted into an offense, because it's not the old Giants offense he used to, Brian Dable's offense. It's not a Dallas offense that he's going to. I don't know. I think that it's more of a playoff move for the real NFL team, more so than any of our fantasy teams.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying. Speaking of Mike White, man, like, it's not even an instance of like it being a mirage that, like, at least it's not Zach Wilson playing. Anything is better than Zach Wilson. He played well. He made everybody fantasy relevant in the receiving game, minus Tyler Conklin. But the players that you cared about, Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson, they played fantastic. So, what are our thoughts here? Charlie Cangelisi in our waiver wire article said, "Hey, Mike White, pick him up as a quarterback potentially for you down the stretch." What does this do for you, Tyler, for these receiving weapons for the Jets? Obviously, Garrett Wilson is kind of cemented himself as the number one there. But me, for example, I went and I found this morning at 5 a.m. when I checked the waiver wire, Elijah Moore was not rostered in a couple of my leagues. And I'm like, yes, add, wherever I can get him. Is that crazy talk, or should people be happy and optimistic about his outlook going forward?
I think you can be optimistic about Elijah Moore. I don't know. I temper the expectations for him a bit. I think it'll be better for real football than fantasy. Garrett Wilson, on the other hand, fire him up, man. I'm excited for Garrett Wilson. Just have a real quarterback to get him the ball. I mean, Salah had my favorite quote of the week when he said Mike White made easy look easy. And I was just like, dang, he just put Zach Wilson in a body bag.
And then that being said, not to play devil's advocate, but that second touchdown is only as a result of Eddie Jackson's foot getting blown up in the middle of the play and him being completely out and scoring. That is irrelevant, though, as far as his overall market share. He was still heavily targeted, still heavily involved. I'm not looking at that as a negative. I don't want to play devil's advocate on that, because I'm not opposing what you're saying. Saying that sometimes when I was looking at the box score, I went, oh, and then watching the plays and seeing that. Off that, though, I have a trivia for you two on Mike White's 149.3 QBR that he had. Who it was the last quarterback to have a 149.3 rating for the Jets.
Oh, God. In a single game. Good God.
No.
What?
You're thinking hard enough that I'm going to guess that
I want to say Chad Pennington.
You can. It's not right, though. I will tell you this.
Brett Favre?
He is a quarterback in the league right now.
Geno Smith.
2014.
Man.
2014. Yep.
He was drafted by who's ready? Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
Got some comments here from Fantasy Dog on YouTube. Good call on Moore and Wilson. He's starting Mike White over Dak and Tom Brady this week. What are your thoughts on that? Starting over Dak and Tom Brady. Dak has kind of not been as fantasy awesome per se. So I can understand that.
Indy is going to be without Kenny Moore this week.
That's a big loss.
Kenny Moore has been ruled out. So that is a pretty big loss, especially for that zone area that he would normally be occupying. I don't think I could start White over Dak myself.
I could start him over Brady.
Yeah, especially
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so Dak, White, Brady. So yeah, thanks for the comments, Fantasy Dog. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely.
Jamar Chase today said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming back this week." Last week, Joe Burrow was like, "Oh yeah, he's going to play this week." You know what? Tell me when a coach tells me that he's playing, then I'll start paying attention. Until then, T. Higgins to the moon. Les, if you're listening, one of our writers here at Fantasy Frames, you're welcome. And finally, Deshaun Watson. I mentioned him earlier, returning this week. You know who I think this is going to be really good for fantasy purposes? David Njoku. I feel like this is going to be the game where they establish that connection between a quarterback and a tight end to move the ball. I think the timing is going to be off for Deshaun Watson. He's going to look rusty for a few weeks. But there's not much to say other than he's back, and I feel upside for David Njoku. So with that, we got another comment here. Will Tony Pollard perform better this week versus Indy? Man, it's tough because the secondary is tough in the receiving game, and then these linebackers just fly all over the middle of the field. That's a great question. Better?
Well, I mean, so go ahead, Tyler.
I was just responding to Jorge's question of better. Yeah, it's going to be better, I would think, than 60 total yards. 61 total yards. He had 2 receptions for 1 yard.
So yes,
I wonder if it's. I want to know if it's going to be more involved in that. That's going to be that kind of directly. Usually, I don't think a lot of us expected Zeke to be on the field for, or at least touch the ball in such a few amount of snaps, because he only played 38 snaps, but yet he touched the ball 17 times out of that. So, I mean, that's just my take, but I shouldn't be shocked, man. Yeah.
Zeke played well.
No, he played on, and touched the ball 17 times. He was involved in 17 run plays.
That's all I'm saying is Zeke played a lot. He had a lot of touches because he played well. So, I mean, Zeke's not dead. I think that's one thing people are forgetting. Like, oh, yeah, Tony Pollard should play all the time. No, he shouldn't. Tony Pollard's super effective when you play him 60% of the snaps and give him 15 to 18 touches. He's super effective in that role. And, he showed he can be effective in a high-volume role, but if you don't have to and you're getting effective play from Ezekiel Elliott, why not hit him with the 1-2 punch, And
let's dispel certain things here. I think gone are the days of Ezekiel Elliott tearing up the stat book for 100-yard games after 100-yard games after 100-yard games.
Yes.
What you are seeing, however, is that this Dallas offense is moving up and down the field at will. I think they said on Thanksgiving this offense is ranked number 1 in pace of play and number of plays ran and scoring since Dak Prescott's return. You look back to week 6 against Philadelphia, going in half PPR, scoring 15.1, 17.7, 17.2, 16. The guy scores. And how's he doing it? Through touchdowns. Okay, so you're giving me a Dallas offense that's moving the ball up and down the field, getting in goal line positions, getting in scoring situations for Zeke to run it in. Yeah, he's not dead, like you said, Tyler. He's just maybe not that super elite player per se. But for fantasy purposes, who cares? As long as he's on a good offense, he can get you good fantasy production.
Yes.
And with that, let's get into our plays and fades as we do each week. We're going to be talking about players that rank outside of the top 12 in quarterback for consensus, Fantasy Pros ECR, outside the top 24 for wide receivers and tight running backs, and outside the top 10 in tight ends. We go over all the positions on offense for those interested in IDP. We cover that next hour on Shoot the Gap with host Mr. Nate Markham. So with that, let's talk about some quarterbacks that we're playing this week, aka we have confidence in. Let's start with you, Tyler.
Sure. So I've got one guy that I picked out,
okay,
and I'm going to go Kenny Pickett at the Atlanta Falcons. He is currently the QB 20 in Fantasy Pros UCR. Falcons have not been great on defense this year. They're 23rd in fantasy points per game allowed at the QB position. Pickett has quietly been getting a lot of run. He has 30-plus attempts in 4 of his last 5 games. He has over 40 in 2 of those games. In the one game where he didn't, he had 28 attempts. So he's slinging the ball a lot. And another thing is the Steelers are designing runs for him. I mean, he's had 7, 8, 2, that was an off week, and 6 rush attempts in the last 4 weeks. That raises his floor. You know, he's getting 4 to 6 rushing points per week, and that's not including a potential touchdown. So I like Pickett this week against the Falcons, and another big reason for that is Pickens. You know, Pickens looks better and better every single week. They have a good connection. He's looking like a star. And don't forget, the Steelers have one of the best in the NFL on the sideline, and Mike Tomlin. He always figures out a way to get his team better throughout the season. So yeah, give me a little Kenny Pickett action this week.
Very nice. At the running back position, Nate, who do you got for us this week?
Yeah, you know, I'm ironically enough, I was going to pick on Atlanta as well with Jaylen Warren if healthy. There's a lot of caveats to this one, which sucks because first of all, it has to be Najee Harris has to be out, which I think is about a 90% certainty. Then Jaylen Warren has to play, which is to me about an 85% certainty. And if he doesn't, I'll piggyback and I will pivot over to Benny Snell. All the running backs there. Not that I'm saying that they're all on the same level, but they all are on the same situation at least. And considering every one of them is outside the RB like 36, and a lot of them are even non-rostered or widely available, or at least sitting on your bench. Pittsburgh Steelers since week 8 are 7th in the NFL in yards per carry, averaging 5 yards per carry since that time. Prior to that, obviously, I think we know where they're at, 28th. But Pittsburgh is 6th versus the run defensively. They've allowed 1,144 yards at about a 4 yards per clip. Yet, Pittsburgh's 28th versus the pass. Mariota, what does he do? He averages about 155 yards per game. I see Pittsburgh actually stopping the run game, preventing Atlanta from what they possibly can do even effectively, which is run the ball, putting the ball in Mariota's hands. I see a lot of Pittsburgh offense and just running the clock out as much as possible against a porous Atlanta defense, which has allowed the 8th most points to opposing running backs. So I see a lot of any of these scenarios. Didn't isolate one, which is kind of not exactly the goal, but I think this gives a lot of people a wide latitude of players to target the if-then scenarios. If Najee's in, you probably don't start anybody besides Warren if he's in. If Najee's out and Warren's in, it's going to be Jaylen Warren. If Warren's out, Benny Snell, with even a potential pivot for Anthony McFarland to give you RB3 late flex numbers. So sorry it's wide-ranging, but my main target would be Jaylen Warren of this entire group.
Very nice. We got a question here from Redraft. Thanks for waiting. Okay, what are we doing here? All right. So for PPR flex spot, would you recommend having Tony Pollard over someone like Garrett Wilson? Yeah.
I don't think I can.
That's tough. Wait, what league are you playing in where no, Garrett Wilson was a late round pick.
Yeah.
Pollard was as well. Jesus.
Full PPR. Probably going to go Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think so too.
Minnesota's banged up in the secondary as well. Cameron Bynum's out, so they have replacement level across the board in the secondary for the not everywhere, but a lot of them will. And I think that just seems like Garrett Wilson target heavy.
Yep. Get another here. Question from Fantasy Dog. Y'all like Zay Jones rest of the season in full PPR? Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. Can't say rest. Can't say maybe rest of season, maybe regular season. I do because he's one of my plays here heading into week 13, going against the Detroit Lions. Week 10 targets, 68 yards, 10.8 fantasy points. Week 12, 14 targets for 145 yards and 22 fantasy points and half PPR scoring.
That's the first time I'm seeing that stat line. I just blew my mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue, Jorge.
The target volume has been there. What makes this next matchup versus Detroit really advantageous is when you look at like the position designations that the cornerbacks or the defensive backs have had for the Detroit Lions over the past 3 weeks. It's like 1 week one person's playing there, the next week they're playing here, the next week they're playing there, the next week they're playing there, and guess what? They suck wherever they go. So this could be a really big week for the receiving options here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jeff Okudah missed last week, their top corner. Not sure if he's going to be back again, but even if he was back, he still was not playing that great. So again, you got to follow the targets. You know, obviously you're banking on upside with Christian Kirk and his consistency he's had all year. But look, Trevor Lawrence has been locking in to Zay Jones. So this week, definitely have upside for him. And I believe they take on the Titans the week afterwards, and the Titans are just saving fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So, for rest of regular season, as you head into the fantasy playoffs, fantasy dog, I'm liking Zay Jones a lot. Another person here, and by the way, Zay Jones was the ECR wide receiver 35 in half PPR scoring. The wide receiver 26 in half PPR scoring, which it's crazy that he's not higher, and people haven't started to drink the Kool-Aid on him yet, is Christian Watson going against Chicago. Chicago, I want to say, is 21st or 22nd in fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver positions. I get it. Not great, but not bad. Okay, you go back to, I'm sure you've all seen the stats. You've all heard on the various broadcasts just how productive in the touchdown department he's been. But let's follow the targets again. Week 10, 8 targets, 107 yards. Week 11, 6 targets for 48 yards. Week 12, 6 targets for 110 yards. Now, yes, a lot of these are coming off of big plays, but the important thing here is Aaron Rodgers has his wide receiver that he trusts. And what does he do? The wide receivers that he trusts, he funnels targets their way. He's not only is he trusting him, in the middle of the field between the 20s, he's trusting him where it matters most, which is in the end zone. You're looking at fantasy point production of 30.7, 19.1, and 19 the past 3 weeks. Aaron Rodgers plays, no brainer. Christian Watson. If he doesn't play, and I mentioned this earlier in news and notes, and if it's Jordan Love, expectations for Christian Watson. You know what? Jordan Love needs to be taught to do 2 things in this offense: not turn the ball over and get the ball to Christian Watson. That's all he has to do. So I feel like if he's being coached up to play this week and Aaron Rodgers does not play, those are the 2 things he needs to do. So I'm not concerned about whether it's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, if it's Rodgers, I'm not concerned at all. At this point, last season, everybody was like, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, he's had a couple of good games, but should I keep riding this wave? I mean, I don't know. Like, don't overthink it. Like, if the guy's playing well and there's nothing really changing per se, keep riding the hot hand. So my plays this week are Christian Watson and Zay Jones. Got another comment here from Fantasy Dog on YouTube. Thank you for the agree. I'm starting Watson and Zay Jones and a 96 teamer in 3rd place right now. I don't even know how you do that.
I thought I had a problem.
Yeah. You run 8 copies of the same team across different 8 leagues, and then that way it matches up against different people and different formats.
Huh. Well, there we go. That is impressive. Right? Very nicely done. Oh, wait, that's exactly what he said. 8 copies for each player. Okay. Wow, reading's fine. Reading's fine. Recency bias is the best bias. Recency bias is a great bias, but it's also, it could be misleading. But again, what makes me happy about this is the target numbers have been consistent. You're not seeing one-offs where it's like 2 targets for 100 and something yards. And you're seeing ample target share. He is being targeted the most. So definitely liking what I'm seeing for Christian Watson. Let's go to tight end now in terms of plays. Tyler, who you got for us?
I am going somewhat deep on this, but it's more of a reminder that this guy is still there. I'm talking about the New York Giants' Daniel Bellinger. He is supposed to be coming back from a freak eye injury that he got earlier in the season. Bellinger is a rookie tight end. So, take that for what it's worth. But rookie out of San Diego State. He was a really good player in college, productive for playing at San Diego State. He was a team captain, all Mountain West Conference, but, I won't go on and on about that. He was productive. Earlier in the year, he was the tight end 10 between weeks 2 and 6 when, the week 1, he basically didn't play. They're like, what's this rookie doing? And the week 2, they're like, oh, he's kind of good. And he essentially evolved into the Giants wide receiver 1. His snap percentage in the games that he was playing continually rose. They were 58, 60, 60, 74, and then 94. His last fully healthy game, he played 94% of the snaps. He was their most targeted player. And, he doesn't have a grand physical limitation. He's not coming back from an ACL, or he's not coming back from a hamstring or something. He's coming back from a freak eye injury. So he's not going to be limited athletically in any way. So with this tight end landscape, heck yeah, give me Daniel Bellinger. I'll take a shot on him over, I think more. There's only 8 tight ends I'd play over him. So I'll give it a shot. I like him.
Nice. Before we get into our fades segment to end the show, just reminding you all who have not signed up yet, head over to underdogfantasy.com, sign up using the promo code FRAMES, and you will get a 100% match up to $100. Look, they have this game. It's called the Rivals game, where it's basically you take player X and player Y, you decide over, under, who's going to score more, who's going to get you more passing yards, so on and so forth. And so they have really cool decisions to make in each and every game, especially for Thursday Night Football, which Thursday Night Football, it's been I've been noticing a trend where, always lower your expectations for performance. And so that kind of helps when you're looking at like the teams that are really I know these are very generic terms here I'm using, but like depending on the matchup, these can kind of be easy to navigate. So head over to Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code FRAMES, 100% on your first deposit up to $100. All right, let's end this show on a downer. I feel like we do this a lot, but we probably should not change it because we're at week 13 at this point in the season. Let's get into our fades per position. Let's start with the quarterback position this week. Who are we fading this week, Tyler?
This was a pretty easy one for me. I'm fading Lamar Jackson versus Denver. Lamar is currently the QB6 in Fantasy Pros ECR. Lamar Jackson has been downright bad for fantasy since week 4. He has had one multi-touchdown game since week 4. That is counting rushing and passing touchdowns. And it was only one game, and he had 2 passing touchdowns, 0 rushing touchdowns. That's it. This team has no offensive creativity to speak of right now. When they lost Rashad Bateman, they lost a huge part of their offense. They can no longer spread the field. They can't spread it vertically. They can't spread it horizontally. All they have is Mark Andrews in the box, and teams can defend that. And one team that can defend that is the Broncos. The Broncos have been awesome this year. They're number 2 in points per game allowed to the quarterback position at 12.2. I mean, does it have something to do with how bad their offense is? Maybe, but I'm going to go ahead and fade Lamar. I don't like him this week. I don't think he'll be in my top 10 this week. So yeah, if you can find someone, I would play them over Lamar Jackson.
Would you play Mike White over Lamar Jackson?
I would actually think about it. I would consider it, but Lamar can always just go off and score 40. So I don't think I could do it, but I would consider it.
And so at the end of the day, could you do it versus the would you do it? Would it be something you could do is completely different. Because at the end of the day, you have to hit that button and you have to live by that decision. And you and I both know you're not doing that. No. You want to say you would do it because
go for the glory play.
On Monday, when Mike White puts up 24 and Lamar puts up 21, we all want to run that lap. Flag in hand, USA, suck at Iran. And I'm not going to say Iran either. It's Iran. I'm just kidding. That's terrible. It's Iran. I actually have respect for Iranian people, and I would never go that direction. But, football time. Soccer wins. Yay.
So let me ask you another question. Let's try another one. Tua or Lamar?
Tua.
Yeah, definitely would fade Lamar in that situation also.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the ECR and I was going down it, and Tua, I'll play him over Lamar. Dak, I would probably just play Dak.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence at Detroit. I think I'd do that.
Me too.
Deshaun Watson at Houston. I think I'd still. Why not? He's going to be rusty.
Man, that's my cutoff.
Yeah, my cutoff is right around Geno and Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We got a question. We have a comment here from Fancy Dog. I've been leaving it on the screen because humble brags and all. You guys are good, very informative, easy to listen, and most important, good, consistent. Thank you. If you have not already, head over to our YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We got shows coming at you every single Wednesday, Thursday, as well as our pregame show on Sundays, where we start at 9:30 in the morning Eastern time and take you all the way to noon, answering all your start and sit questions, as well as going over every single NFL game on the Sunday and Monday slate, talking about all the fantasy relevant players. So make sure you head over to our YouTube and do that, as well as follow us everywhere on social media at Fantasy and Frames. We thank you very much for the comment here, Fantasy Dog. He also says, great call. Wow, Nate, I can already tell which one it is. Great call on Jackson. Wins are important too right now. Who's been hitting the button? Has it been Tyler?
No, I haven't.
I haven't touched anything. My hand's right here.
That's all you, Jorge.
Yeah, man. You got some palsy going on.
Doing the double clicking. Oh my god!
Shouldn't make fun of that. If you came down with Bell's palsy, I said I shouldn't make fun of you for that. If you came down with Bell's palsy, I'd feel terrible about that. I'd also take control of the show and make sure that you didn't do that.
Mouse privileges revoked from where no
exactly.
No offense. All right. Speaking of no offense, who are you fading this week, Nate, at running back?
I don't have a good segue from that other than, what stops a good offense is a good defense, and that defense will be against the running game in San Francisco. Jeff Wilson is not in my my must start situation. He's not even in my starting. I want to start. I'll name a couple more of the players I would probably start over him. The aforementioned Jaylen Warren, I would start over Jeff Wilson Jr. I would start Kyron Williams over Jeff Wilson Jr. Wow. I would start maybe AJ Dillon with the Aaron Jones news. And then if and only if someone to pay attention to, we didn't touch in the notes section, but Josh Jacobs is dealing with a calf injury that is, I think, maybe more telling than what they're leading on. And if that's the case, Zamir White is someone to pay attention to. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about why Jeff Wilson is a fade. I mean, I could keep it short and sweet and just say San Francisco. I mean, you have a San Francisco defense that has been absolutely dominant against the run this year. They add back in Eric Armstead, who was supposed to play, which has been notably, I don't want to say their best run stopper, but as pivotal a piece in that equation as there is. And I mean, last week, I know the touchdown salvage, the only point scored against them, but I don't believe that they'll get much started in the way. And Raheem Mostert now is trending in the positive direction, from what I understand, despite on Twitter. His Twitter presence is trending in the negative direction, but his health is trending in the positive. Unfortunately, I'm trending his start status in the negative direction. So I'm not starting Jeff Wilson. Quick little another one too, just to throw in. Miles Sanders is someone I would pay attention to as far as if you have better options. Danico Autry is probably set to return against Tennessee, and Tennessee against the run has been phenomenal. We saw last week without Danico Autry, they allowed the RB9 to Samaje Perine. I was way wrong on that. For anybody listening that I told don't start Samaje Perine, shame on me, I guess. I didn't realize the impact of Danico Autry. But let's go back. Week 1, Saquon had a huge week. Since then, they have held Aaron Jones, every Denver running back, Isaiah Pacheco, Dameon Pierce, Jonathan Taylor twice, every Washington running back, Josh Jacobs, Devin Singletary to under 15 fantasy points the entire season. The highest outside of week 1 and week 12 was an RB 18 finish. And that was, I believe, that was Josh Jacobs. So I'm out on Miles Sanders this week against Tennessee as well.
All right, Nate, I got a test for you.
Test.
I have Jeff Wilson in a starting lineup right now.
Okay.
Would you play both of these guys over him? David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott.
David Montgomery, I would against Green Bay. Green Bay's run defense has been horrible. We saw that with Miles Sanders last week. They couldn't do anything, which is crazy because they have such big bodies up front, but just nothing to do in the way of preventing anything. And then Darnell Savage left the game. Not that he's huge in run stopping, but him being out means they have to bring in a rookie this week, which I'm trying to think what his name was. It doesn't really matter. Rudy Ford is who that was. So, I mean, I would start Montgomery. Zeke, I got to say, yeah, after last week, right? I mean, he sure looked like he was getting the praise. I mean, it's Indy. I know that Indy's tough with Buckner and Grover Stewart up front. I don't trust Jeff Wilson against San Francisco. I would rather go Zeke and just assume that they get up on Indy early and they can run the clock out and just lean on Zeke a little bit heavier.
Yeah. I got a ringer in there with Jordan Mason sitting on my bench.
Jordan Mason. So that's another tricky thing with Jordan Mason. So Jordan Mason came in last week, and the big reason Jordan Mason played in the game is because his special teams ability. So that's what they were saying is the only reason he was in the game is from special teams. Here's an interesting, crazy name for San Francisco. Jorge, write this one down. Tevin Coleman. Tevin Coleman is a sneaky. I know, but the beat writers in San Francisco have a gut feeling that they think he could actually jump both TDP and Jordan Mason.
Man,
don't be shocked. I'm just saying, don't be shocked. Watch out. I know it hurts and it sucks, but
what is this, 2017? Come on.
Yeah, that's how it feels like with a lot of these conversations we've been having with some of these players. But
oh yeah,
hey, if you can believe in James Robinson, you can believe in Tevin Coleman.
Again, the dig with the James Robinson.
Tevin Coleman was excellent for that 1 week, that one time. Week six. Let's go back to week 6. That's when it was, right?
Oh God. Anyhow, wide receiver fade. Gabriel Davis. He's currently the ECR wide receiver 27. In week 9 versus the New York Jets, was held to 33 yards receiving, 4.3 points. People like to talk about Sauce Gardner, rightfully so. Great cornerback, shutting a lot of prominent wide receivers down. Stephon Diggs Diggs had 99 yards receiving as a whole on that game, but he only got you 11 fantasy points, and a lot of that came off of one big play to start the game, if memory serves me correctly. But DJ Reed, I don't think is getting enough respect. Also, cornerback for the New York Jets, he's allowing only around a 57% completion percentage when targeted. I see that kind of continuing this week. I think the Jets are flying high, and I think this is going to be a down week for Gabriel Davis. So fade Gabriel Davis this week. And let's wrap us up here with the tight end position fade. Tyler.
This one was easy for me. I mean, he's the tight end 12, so he's right on the cusp. But Tyler Higbee, last weekend was his lowest snap percentage of the year. I have a sneaking suspicion Tyler Higbee might be hurt too, quote unquote. Just like every other Rams starter is quote unquote hurt right now, or just having random surgeries. The Rams have completely given up on the season. I think they still plan on having Higbee be a part of this team next year, and I don't think they want to get him hurt. So I am avoiding playing any Rams at all. So give me Daniel Bellinger over Tyler Higbee easily.
Very nice. So tomorrow over at fantasyandframes.com, which head over to fantasyandframes.com each and every day for rankings, for articles. We have our, waivers have obviously been processed at this time, but maybe you're still lacking some players or need some help figuring out who you need to pick off the waiver wire, both on offense and for IDP. Well, Charlie and Nate, they put out their waiver article yesterday. articles, yesterday. So head over to fantasyandframes.com. Check those out. Tomorrow, our own Jonathan Klonowski over in the UK put together our starts and sits this week on offense. So check that out. Also, IDP starts and sits for Sunday and Monday will come out on Friday. So again, we have all sorts of stuff. We have our Chasing Upside series where we give you players that are ranked outside the major consensus, outside the popular ranks, popular circles you hear on fantasy football media. And we give you players that we think can exceed expectations, both on offense and IDP, as well as, let's not forget, Les's buy low, sell high article series. In case you haven't figured it out, folks, we do a lot of articles. We do a lot of podcasts. We do a lot of everything because we want to first engage with you all, as well as give you all the good fantasy football content that we can provide. And that's what we do here at Fantasy and Frames. So we got one more question here from Fantasy Dog. Let's see. Pick third for 96 teamer. Wilson.
Jamal Williams, okay. Cordell Patterson, Gus Edwards, if no Dobbins.
Man,
that's a lot. That's a lot of options.
It is, and try to get. All right, let's see.
Let's break out the old research here.
Let me see how my rankings go.
Nate's breaking out his stone tablets.
his abacus. his abacus here.
Well, no, the stone tablet means it's already been written. I would already have this written out. I'm not going to transcribe it right now. I mean, then I have to read it. I have to go pick it up. I need my my little pulley system of the carts and wheels for them to bring it back to me. Those tablets are heavy, bro.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Apologize.
I guess the question is like, how can we not be pro Williams in Detroit after what he's done all season long?
Correct. Against Jacksonville, I'm going Williams. Pick 3.
Oh man, pick 3 Williams. Jesus. Brian Robinson.
I was gonna say I probably still go Brian Robinson, and then for the third one, I'd probably go Latavius Murray. Just because I don't see anybody else dipping in. Like Pacheco will lose plenty time. Pacheco will lose playing time to. He's got J.K. Dobbins and Deontay Foreman too. I guess you have 96. 96 players on 96 teams. 81,000 players to choose from.
Every single running back.
Every
3.
Nice. Got Craig, our friend Craig Ruth over here. Virtual hug, elbow cough. We love you too, buddy. All right. So for everybody who tuned in today, thank you very much. Everybody who's listening to the podcast, this will be, of course, released on Thursday. Thank you for listening. We'll see you all on the Fantasy and Frames pregame show on Sunday morning, starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Next up, we got Shoot the Gap. So for Tyler, Nate, I'm Jorge. See y'all on Sunday.